Sister Zainab, can you turn the light on? Turn the light. صلى على محمد وعلى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Just a reminder for myself and for everybody, when the Quran is being recited, inshallah, let's make sure that we're reciting along, or at a minimum, we're listening and not having side conversations at the same time. Before we continue, we have one of the younger brothers who will present a surah of the Quran. Please welcome Brother Amir Mahdi with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in Ihdinas siratal mustaqim Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. MashaAllah. Next we have Sister Asya and Sister Zainab who also do a surah. Please welcome them with another loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr wa ma adraka ma laylatul qadr. Laylatul qadri khairun min alfi shahr. Tanazzalul malaikatu war-ruhu fiha bi'izni rabbihim min kulli amr. Salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. MashaAllah. Any other volunteers? Okay. Inshallah, we'll continue with the lecture by our respected guest scholar, Sayyid Abbas. Please welcome him with another loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If I can request the brothers to please move forward and join us in the front of the majlis, inshallah we can maximize our benefit that way.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبا القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. Alhamdulillah, we have been blessed to observe Shahr Ramadan, and we are hopefully continuing with the enthusiasm that we had before to make sure that we observe and benefit from this month as much as we can. Because we understand that freedom from the hellfire occurs during these last 10 days. A lot of it occurs during these last 10 nights. And we have that the Prophet has been mentioned to do i'tikaf during these last 10 nights. I'tikaf means to retreat, a spiritual retreat, to go to masjid and to stay there. And this is an important time period for us. So remember, these last 10 nights are extremely valuable for us. When we look at Surah Al-Anbiya, we reach this verse, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ رُشْدًا مِنْ قَبْلُ وَكُنَّا بِهِ عَالِمِينَ. And we had certainly given Ibrahim his sound judgment before, and we were of him well knowing. One of the great prophets who about maybe 69 times has been mentioned in the Holy Quran is Prophet Ibrahim. And today and tomorrow we'll talk about his life. Some say he lived around 2000 BC. That is the time he lived. Where was he? In Mesopotamia, Kutha or Ur, or around, there's different opinions about the exact city, but some say it's called Kutha. And this was a time period where there was a very dangerous person by the name of Nimrud, who was so arrogant because he had unified the civilization, he was extremely powerful, and would claim that he is God. He said that he is a God. So Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, which is one of the prophets, when you want to rank them, and it's not necessarily good to do this, but some have said from the higher of the prophets, in terms of status after our prophet, is Prophet Ibrahim. So therefore, you can say in a way, second place goes to our Iraqi brothers, those who are from Iraq. First place goes to Hijaz when it comes to the prophet. The Quran talks about Prophet Ibrahim, Ibrahim alladhi waffa. It's a very interesting verse about Prophet Ibrahim. Ibrahim is he who did waffa. Waffa can mean one, means he was loyal. You heard wafa or wafa, someone that is very loyal. Someone that is loyal to the Rabb, follows all the instructions. Or waffa, as we have like, the malaika, they also do this action of tawaffi, for example. They snatch, they take the soul. They don't annihilate the soul. We say the soul lives. So the malaika, they take the soul. They don't destroy it. So what does wafa then mean here for Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam? Wafa can mean to take, meaning that he took everything there was to be taken from the world. Every benefit that one person can have, he maximized his benefit in the world. For example, in Shahr Ramadan, I ask you, how much did you take in Shahr Ramadan? How much is there to take? It's showering, it's raining, as we're talking. But some person takes, for example, a little handful. Somebody takes a bowl, somebody takes a pot worth. Somebody fills an entire pool, for example, of rain and knowledge and ma'rifah in Shahr Ramadan. So therefore, our duty in this world, if you take the second interpretation, is to become like Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, to take as much as we can from this world, benefit. And he took everything there was. Let's talk about the story. How did this wafa happen? How did he take everything? We see that Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, born in Iraq, Mesopotamia, he is buried in Al-Khalil, Palestine. You heard of the city Al-Khalil. Why is that city called Al-Khalil? Because the Khalil, which is the friend of Allah, is buried there. That's where Prophet Ibrahim, they say, is buried. So Nimrud has this one advisor who's very close to him by the name of Azar. And Azar looked at the stars and he concluded that there is going to be a child born that is going to end our religion, and he's going to end our civilization, and he's going to bring a new religion. So Nimrud asks, he says, is he born? Is he conceived yet? Azar says, no, he has not been born yet. Now here we have some, same opinion with Ahlul Kitab, because we believe that the name, from what our understanding is, that the father of Prophet Ibrahim was not Azar, that he was his uncle, because his father's name was Terah. And this is also the same name used in the Old Testament, for example, because we believe that the fathers of the prophets cannot be of the mushriki. They have to be good people. They have to be shamicha people that have good power, good position. So therefore, they separate male and woman, female. So this child is not conceived. But of course, Nimrud has an exception for himself. You cannot, ban Nimrud. And also for his very good advisor in his family, Azar. And also there, it is where Terah and Sarah, which are, they say, the father and mother of Prophet Ibrahim, they were excluded from this ban as well. And Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam is born. So you see, like the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when God wills something, it will happen. Nobody can stop the will of Allah. Even if they stop all the children, kill all the boys, or stop all the parents, there will eventually Prophet Ibrahim and Prophet Musa alayhi salam will be born. So now he was born, now mother is wondering what to do. The story has, the book, if you can look at God's emissaries, he does a very good job, Sheikh Rizwan does a very good job of taking away the Israeliyat, the fake fabrications, and presenting the story in this way to the best of knowledge. That she takes this child, puts him in the cave, but has to say farewell, because if this child is known to be born, because nobody can be conceived, he would be executed. So leaves Prophet Ibrahim there. From the will of Allah, he survives by himself, this baby. And he gets sustenance. Now some say he, for example, sucked from his thumb, and that was sustenance for him, for example. She comes back and is wondering, very sad, probably child is now, suffering or is dead, but sees he's thriving. This child is, mashallah, in a good position. So therefore, she leaves again, keeps visiting, and this is how Prophet Ibrahim is saved. He is gone in the cave. Now, after a while, by being hidden, some say here at a young age, they decide to show him, because now the danger was gone. He was already like 13 or something like that. His father, during this time period of years of hiding Prophet Ibrahim, his father passes away. So now his uncle Azar is going to raise him. And as a good uncle does, he takes him to the idol-worshipping temple. So there he can get familiar with the religion of his family, the religion of his city. Because Prophet Ibrahim later on, he learns from Prophet Nuh that he was one of the followers of Prophet Nuh, the religion of Prophet. So he takes him to some of these idols, and Prophet Ibrahim looks at them and mentions that, says, what are the benefits of these things? You're just paraphrasing. They cannot harm you, they cannot benefit you. And if you see, for example, idol worship, or sometimes in different countries, they even go and they feed the idol, they give some milk or something like that. You see, what's going on, for example? It's not benefiting, it's not harming. So he's not impressed by this new religion, They take him and show him the stars, the sky. And they say, now look, those were not our real gods. They were just symbols. There are signs of them. Let me take you to the real gods. They show him, for example, the stars, possibly say Venus, one of the planets. And then the planet sets because the earth, is rotating. So that cannot be my God. That cannot be my Lord. Then they show him the moon. Now look about this one. He looks at the moon. The moon also sets. No. May Allah guide me. Let me show me the correct religion. Just paraphrasing. Until the sun. Now that must be the best God, because the sun is brilliant. You can't even look at it. But then the sun sets, and Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam is not impressed. And basically, what he mentioned about this was that God cannot be one who sets. This is a very interesting logical approach to God and religion, is that God has to always be al-hayy, has to always be alive, has to be present. God cannot change forms. And as we said time and time again, God cannot have any limitation. If that God has a limitation, that is not my God. And this is a general, argument that anyone can have about God. That God must be wajibul wujud, that its existence is necessary. It is not contingent existence, as we are mumkinul wujud. We are mumkin. We have contingencies. God cannot have any contingency. Very simple proof for God. So therefore, he goes to continues his life. Then he becomes a prophet, even though some say at a young age, maybe 13, maybe 15. But he advises his people. And this is very interesting about Prophet Ibrahim. At a young age, he keeps warning them not to take these idols as gods, not to take the sun as gods. He keeps commanding the good and joining the good. But a few people listen. At that time, they say one is Prophet Lut. Later on becomes Prophet Lut and his sister. They become believers. And the qisma of Prophet Ibrahim is that he marries the sister of Prophet Lut. They're cousins in a way, and they become married. Prophet Ibrahim at that time becomes very rich as well. He had the wealth of his wife and also had his wealth and becomes very wealthy. They say that once there's a story that he hears one of the angels, or he hears a sound of the glorification of Allah. And imagine an angel, a heavenly voice, reciting the dhikr of God. For him, this is so beautiful that in the story, in the tradition, it says that I am willing to give half of my flock to hear this one more time. And he hears it one more time, how beautiful it is, the dhikr and remembrance of Allah. He says, I'm willing, in the story narrated, that I'm willing to give my other half to hear it another time. I'm willing to give everything. Now this is so interesting for us because we're willing sometimes to give a lot of deen away for dunya. Because we're willing to trade. The Prophet Ibrahim had a large amount of sheep or animals. And he's willing just to hear the dhikr and remembrance of Allah one more time. He's willing to give it all. Imagine if we could reach such a position that for the worship of Allah, one day of worshiping of Allah, we will be willing to sacrifice everything if we loved Allah that much. This is the love that Allah had. He becomes Ibrahim al-Khalil. He becomes the friend of Allah. Because to be a friend, you have to honor Allah. You have to become so close to Him that you're willing to give everything for Him. At that time, finally, Ibrahim is going to do some mischief. He's waiting for this very large festival, and he wants to show the people mischief in the good way. He wants to show the people in a very good way that these idols that you worship don't do anything. So he takes, and we call Prophet Ibrahim, we call him the idol breaker. And he comes and smashes the idols. He breaks the idols. So he smashes the idols, but he leaves the largest one. And there's a reason why he's going to do this. Let's see what the Quran says. قالوا أنت فعلت هذا. They come back. He smashes the idols, and they become very upset. And they come to him. Quran says, and this is the Surah Al-Anbiya, the same surah. قالوا أنت فعلت هذا بآلهتنا يا إبراهيم. Wasn't you the one that you did this? You smashed our idols. Verse 62. قال بل فعله كبيرهم هذا فاسألوهم إن كانوا ينطقون. He said, rather, the largest one did that, so ask him if they should be able to speak. Now here there's some say, because the prophets cannot lie, they cannot do kidb. How can we say Prophet Ibrahim is attributing this action to this idol? to the largest idol. Some say, one explanation is, this in kanu yantiqun is the shart, is the condition, saying that the largest one did this if he can speak. So because he cannot speak, therefore he did not do. So therefore, it is in a way that it is not kidh. This is one way to do tafsir of this verse, is with this clause of in kanu yantiqun. If he can speak, then he would do, but he didn't, therefore. But they thought about this, and they said here that, it makes sense, but then they came back and realized that no, you're dishonoring our prophets. So finally they gathered and said, let's pass judgment to Ibrahim. Why did he do this? Why did he smash our God? And generally they were fed up. He was commanding the good. He was telling them your religion is wrong. And the prophecy was being fulfilled, and what Nimrud was very afraid of. So finally they came to him on that day, and they said, the judgment has been passed. Burn him. Why don't you take Ibrahim alayhi salam and burn him? There they begin to build a large fire for Prophet Ibrahim. So large that when they wanted to place him in this fire, they were afraid that they would burn themselves. So they also designed a catapult. So this catapult, in a sense, so they can throw Prophet Ibrahim inside the fire. When this town is very happy to seek revenge on Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, there in the tradition it comes that Prophet Ibrahim begins a sincere prayer to Allah, because all of these actions were done for God. So therefore, who is going to save him? Allah will. So he makes this very sincere dua that day, and he turns to God, who is the one Allah, that there's no God worthy of worship, and that he asks help from Prophet, from Allah, and he mentions Prophet Muhammad and his family. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So the dua is as he turns to God at singular, references to him in a singular way, and he asks Allah to deliver him from your mercy by the right of this final messenger and his family. When he is thrown into the fire, Allah commands it to be cool for Ibrahim, and he lands, some say, in a very soft place inside the fire, and he is absolutely fine because the fire is not burning him. This became such an important event that Ibrahim alayhi salam, later on, news travels all over. Ibrahim is the one who cannot be burned by fire. That even when he goes to Palestine, other areas, they know him as the prophet, as the person who cannot be touched and burnt by the fire. Now Nimrud is furious. Threw him into the fire. He did not burn. What are we going to do now? Now, finally, from his, I don't know, in English we call Nimrod, usually someone who's not that intelligent, right? I don't know if this Nimrod or Nimrud comes from this story, but Nimrod here comes to fight against God. He built a tower and he's infuriated. He says, you know what? I'm going to kill the Lord of Ibrahim. He takes an arrow, very cleverly, puts some blood on it, and shoots it, and from the tower shoots it up. The arrow comes down, and people say, oh, it's bloodied. He killed the Lord of Ibrahim. Now Allah, when he wants to illustrate his power in this story, he takes one of the smallest things and uses that to destroy some of the biggest of tyrants. He takes this gnat or insect, and it goes inside the nostril of Nimrud, and goes and devours the brain, and therefore is the destruction of Nimrud, who tried to fight with Allah, tried to kill him with an arrow. Allah killed him in this story with a little gnat, a little insect. We see throughout life, do not expect the biggest of, for example, people to fall with the biggest of weapons. Look at Abraha, when the same Kaaba that Prophet Ibrahim and Ismail built. When they come, Abraha comes to destroy the holy Kaaba. And Abdul Muttalib comes and faces him and says, give back to me these 200 camels. And Abraham is thinking this Abdul Muttalib was a smart person. How come he just wants his camels? He doesn't want, I'm going to destroy the Kaaba. But you see here, he says that I am the Lord, the owner of these camels. But the Kaaba has its own Lord. And then you see that these Ashabul Fil, this group army of elephants, now maybe there's 1 elephant, 2, 3, 13 elephants, and the tafsirs is different numbers. Abraha comes to attack. What does Allah use to destroy this large animal that's very unfamiliar in Arabia? What does He use? Tayran ababil, a flock of birds. And this flock of birds, tarmihim bihijaratin min sijil, throws a tiny clay rock at them. Something, they say sijil here is, for example, hijaratin min sijil, these little rocks were the size of larger than lentils, smaller than peas, something that small. To who? Ashab al-Fil. And it's interesting, some mufassirin about this, a side note about the word sijil. Some say it is a Persian word. Sijil is Persian. It comes from sang and gel. Sang, gel, became sangel, became sajel, sajil. Sang, which is rock, and gel, which is mud. These are one of the examples that some Persian words came into the Holy Quran. It came into Arabic and then the Holy Quran. So Allah throws sijil and they become فَجَعَلَهُمْ كَعَسْفٍ مَأْكُولٍ. They became like straw that was chewed up. Who? Ashab al-Fil. Birds, and birds taking something, those small piece of clay, firing it at them. So we see throughout history, Allah, when He wants to amaze us and show His power, He's not going to bring, for example, the largest of creatures, for example, the most dangerous. He brings the most simple one, sometimes an insect, sometimes birds, to destroy the dhalim, to destroy those who want to fight against religion. And this is for us, a sign that when Allah wants to help us, He will help no matter what. Even if you think there's a dead end, nobody else can help me, Allah will help you, because the means and methods for Allah is different than what we think. Don't ever have despair in Allah. Always think that Allah will help you. Always have raja and hope in Him. So therefore, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, now he's married. He's going to be going to the promised land. We'll save that part, inshallah, for tomorrow. Come tomorrow, so we can finish the story of Prophet Ibrahim. He takes his Prophet Lut and himself, and they go towards the promised land. The lesson that we want to share today about the story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam that we can relate to in this Shahr Ramadan is the moral is staying away from idol worship. Prophet Ibrahim was the idol breaker. Quran mentions to us, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى. Have you not seen he who takes his nafs, his desires as his God? Sometimes when we think about idol worship, we say it, I don't worship idols. We don't see any idols here, alhamdulillah, in the center. What are you talking about? Stay away from them. Well, we also have tradition. The famous tradition has كُلَّمَا شَغَلَكَ عَنِ اللَّهِ فَهُوَ صَنَمَكَ. Whatever occupies you, distracts you from Allah, that is your idol. These idols sometimes can be an individual person. This idol sometimes for us can be wealth. Sometimes it can be in the form of cryptocurrency, for example. Sometimes it can be maqam and position. Sometimes it can be the lower desires. Have you not seen he who takes the lower desires as their Lord, as their ilah? Brothers and sisters, we have one heart. We don't have two hearts. We have one heart. And this heart has to be full of the love of Allah. If it is not, we have taken someone else and put it in our heart. Therefore, asceticism in this statement, how Imam Ali in tradition mentioned, is not to own, not owning anything. It is that nothing owns you. Don't allow anything to attach your heart in a way that causes you not to give in to and submit to Allah. So let's talk a little bit about this hawa in nafs and becoming an abd. The problem that we have, and the youth have, is when you say fight against your desires, They say, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Because we live in a liberalistic society. We believe we are in a society that is founded by liberalism. Liberalism means the supremacy of freedom, the lack of restrictions, the preeminence of desire. I am supposed to do what I like, what I aspire to. And my God and Lord is a good God as long as He helps me reach my dreams. But if He gets in the way, if a religion says it's haram, that's a bad religion. We don't like that religion. I want to be an artist, for example. I want to be a musician. Now God says music is haram. God says you cannot play music. My dreams are ruined. I don't like this religion, for example. I wanted to be a dancer, or whatever thing that is haram, and then religion comes in the way. So the way that we are raised, and many times there are paradigms in us that we don't even notice because we're influenced by Western culture, tells you to go after your dreams. Sometimes I was looking at a priest, a religious, Christian, that was saying that I cannot even tell my congregation to be a slave, for example. This word slave is too harsh because that Lord, which is good, is the one that helps you. Being a servant isn't something good in culture. Young people do not want to accept this. So what can we do to fight against this culture that we have that is telling us, be free, do whatever you want? We have to tell them this, that we don't understand what is good for us. There are many things, how Quran mentions, that are good for you, but you do not like. And we are meant to fight against the lower desires, that this nafs is actually our enemy when it seeks evil things. And if we do not do tarbiyat of the nafs, the lower desires, we will become dangerous individuals, we will become wolves. Our deen, by fighting the nafs and aligning our will with the will of Allah, makes us the best of people. Why do you think Prophet Ibrahim is a champion throughout the entire world, let's say Abrahamic faiths? Because he fought against the desires. The desire at that time was to follow what his society is doing. Just follow the bandwagon. You're worshiping idols, I will. But one person at the age of 13, 15, took on an entire great civilization. That is fighting against the nafs. Sometimes fighting against the nafs means saying what people don't like, means standing up for the madloom and the oppressed, means being courageous. And when everybody is saying something wrong, you stand up and you say the truth. This is fighting against the nafs. Therefore, in Islam, the biggest difference that you see between the Muslim and the non-Muslim, the Muslim has fought against himself, has been in jihad against himself. And you will see the scars of this jihad. You will see him to be very trained. His eyes trained, his ears trained, his tongue trained. He will not speak bad against someone. He doesn't do what the desires want. And this is what elevates us and gives us rank. One of our great scholars by the name of Ayatollah al-Uzma, Muhammad Taqi al-Khansari, great alim. There was a time period when he would perform the prayers, and in his congregation would be, for example, Imam Khomeini, would be Allama Tabatabai. Greats would pray behind him during his Salat al-Jama'ah. They say that he was one of the scholars who was also, he was a mujtahid and jurist, also was a mujahid, and he fought against the British when they came in to Iraq. He fought against them. He was actually taken as captive, they say, and they forced him, say, translate these books, different languages. I'm not going to help you. The time came, the drought happened in the holy city of Qom. And they said, you as the supreme marja, why don't you do Salatul Rain, Salatul Baran? Why don't you do the rain prayers? Istisqa. And he accepted. And this is one of the prayers that both Muslim, Shia, and Sunni say you can do in congregation. It's a mustahab prayer you can do in congregation. So he went out there and with a lot of followers came. Now, is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? Let's see. After doing this salat, it became well known, if you look into history, this is maybe 70, 80 something years ago, a flood occurred in the city of Qom. And that river that goes between the city Some who witnesses said, I would see like a deer like floating in the river, like a deer is going down the river. It began to rain, and a flood occurred. They asked Ayatollah Sayyid Muhammad Taqi Khansari, what did you do? They actually came to him and said, some of the books I read, people that were there from other countries, and they said, pray for world peace. If your prayer is like this, pray for world peace. What did you do? Then finally, after interrogating him, asking him, he said, you know what I did? I went out there in front of everybody to fight against my nafs. I said, this nafs, this ego, this lower desire is too strong. Let me embarrass myself in front of the whole world, everyone. I'm going to go there and do salat of rain, and that it's not going to rain, and everyone's going to say, ha, ha, look at this person. I went there to fail. That was my intention. I went there to crush myself in front of the whole world. But yet whoever lowers themselves, Allah raises them in rank. And that is our answer that we give, that why we fight against the desires, because we've seen whoever has fought against the lower desires, Allah has elevated rank. Now, if your desire is something good, achieve it. Go towards that. If it's to serve the community, if it's I'm a student, I have a desire to be a physician, to heal people, yes, well, whoever saves one life has saved all of mankind, do it. But if you ever see your desires are against deen, if you ever see, for example, if it comes to marriage, you want to choose someone to marry that does not fit the religious criteria that are mentioned in the Quran or Hadith, do not pursue that. If you want to choose an occupation and that is haram, do not do that. If you want to perform business and they tell you there's lots of income in this, there's lots of profit, then you might have to lie a little bit, maybe you have to trick someone here, maybe you have to cut some corners, the insurance policy, you have to do this with that, then that is the time to fight against your desires. And then Allah will purchase that. That is what Allah will purchase. أفضل الأعمال أحمزها. Best of action is that action that is the hardest, that I have to sell myself, I have to give my entire existence, like Imam Ali alayhi salam in Laylatul Mabit, when he gave everything, and Quran mentions about him, and there are those who sell themselves. Imam Ali alayhi salam sold himself in the night that 40 swords were going to come into his body. He sold himself so that his brother, his teacher, his prophet can safely go to Medina. He became one who sacrificed himself. So therefore, my brothers and sisters, learn. And I tell myself that this great jihad that we have in Shahr Ramadan is to fight against our desires. And this is what Allah is, we understand, trying to teach us, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can learn to fight against your nafs. You want drink right now? You want sweet cup of tea? It's almost iftar time, for example. You want coffee? You want dates? You keep telling yourself, you look at water, you say, I want it, for example. I want food right now. But you keep whipping yourself into shape, and then you will become the strongest of people. One of the benefits of Islam is that after you look at the stories of the prophets and those who have done fighting against the soul, they become the strongest of people, become the strongest. Nobody can ever conquer you because you have already conquered yourself. Nobody can tempt you and say, oh, you want some? For example, come get this. They'll trick you with money. They'll trick you with lower desires. No one can ever do that. You will become the best student. You will become the best son. You will become the best neighbor. You will become the best citizen if you learn how to do jihad nafs, because you will take the rights of people and you will respect it. You'll be tamed. How Imam Ali alayhi salam mentions, the person who has taqwa is like that person who is riding, paraphrasing in Nahj al-Balagha, like that person who's riding a tamed horse. And the person that has not tamed themselves is like that person who has a maverick, an unruly horse. Did you ever see a horse that doesn't want to be tamed and you try to go on it? What happens if you go on that horse in the middle of the mountains and there's like a cliff? What will it do? Throw you to the bottom of that. That is the nafs. But what happens if you tame this horse that you have? And you see those horse competitions, they jump whenever they want. Even their hair is all braided and all looks very nice. They jump wherever they want, they stop wherever they want, they follow the orders. Can we, inshallah, in this Shahr Ramadan, do something to tame our lower desires? And I'm saying this as one whose nafs is out of control. I'm like that maverick who's willing for his, the horse to push him off the cliff. So this is one lesson that we learn from the story of Prophet Ibrahim, that fighting against the idols is not limited to fighting against his physical idols. Let's do away with the idols that we have made from ourselves, that we have attached to, inshallah. May Allah bless all of you and allow us to follow the path of our prophets, to follow the path of the Holy Quran and the Imams, inshallah. Ya Allah, we ask you, because of this blessed month, if you have not forgiven us, to now forgive us, inshallah, in the remaining nights of Shahr Ramadan, inshallah. Ya Allah, make our children and our children's children the followers of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the lovers of Ali ibn Abi Talib, inshallah, to all generations until the day of judgment, inshallah. Ya Allah, we ask you to cure the sick, to help the oppressed, as we hear in the news. Day and day, every day they're destroying hospitals, killing innocents, killing children. Give protection, inshallah, to the mazlumeen. We know that your dua will be heard. The dua of the guest of Allah in Shahr Ramadan is answered, is mujab, mustajab. Ya Allah, we ask you to remove dhulm from all over the entire world, wherever continent it exists, in America, North America, South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, wherever this dhulm is, remove it, inshallah. Make us have blessed the souls of our departed, our parents, inshallah, grandparents, to the day of judgment. And inshallah, make us of the followers of Imam al-Mahdi and expedite his return with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa